Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Little Talks for Peak Performance, where we help you attract clients, not chase them. We have a really exciting guest here today. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on, but many of you know him and are very familiar with Mr. Luke Loewen. This is like a blast from the past, and I couldn't be more excited to have you on the podcast here with us today to talk about New Gen and our New Gen Retirement University.
Thanks, Dustin. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, just a little bit of background for those that don't know. Luke and I were partners here at Gradient for almost, I think it was over a decade, and built a really awesome, what I would call a book of business that we both uh, really enjoyed working together. And through all of our successes, you took a promotion at Gradient and have jumped on some other endeavors that have really not only helped us marketers, but helped the FSP as well. Can you kind of talk about your role real quick?
Oh, absolutely. I changed from being in your shoes, Dustin, to being the vice president of Annuity Annuity Brokerage, which was a unique and challenging change. What I see it as is my role changed from helping everybody do more business, meaning those of you that are watching this podcast, uh, provide you things that can help you do more. And that was something Dustin and I did as a team. To my new role, I consider to be my job is to eliminate any possible obstacle that can keep it stands between Dustin and you as far as getting the best ideas to you and helping you grow your business. And so now I do that with all of the teams here at Gradient. And things like this podcast here, I'm really excited to see because from my role, I get to see the neat things that are happening to help communicate with all of you that are out there to help get these great ideas to you. And it's amazing how year over year things change and the wonderful ideas that come through. But looking forward to talking through some of what's coming at New Gen with you guys, or with you today, Dustin, and everybody that's watching.
Awesome. So we'll jump right into New Gen. So we host or hold the New Gen University anywhere between 3 and 4 times a year. I usually typically tell FSPs it's once a quarter. We try to get a New Gen retirement in. And really today I want to talk about the new generation retirement. What I call it's a system, and whether you're prospecting or you're doing annual reviews, any client interaction you have, you should always use this process. And there's nobody better at Gradient to talk about it than yourself. So we'll talk about the process. We'll talk about the New Generation University. But most importantly, I think this is the culmination of everything Gradient has that we've been building and working on for the better part of 16 plus years.
Yep. So I'll throw in one thing for the university here, and then we'll jump into what the process looks like. Anytime anybody starts with Gradient, my number one goal is to get you to come out to a New Generation University. And that this comes from all the years that I was individually coaching producers like Dustin is doing with you right now. You guys know when we call, you're in the middle of a day where you need to meet with clients and prospects, and you've got things going on that the needs of every day get in the way of having long conversations. And so Dustin can have a chat with you for, say, 20 or 30 minutes at a time. But if you want to cover everything that you can do in the process we're going to walk through here in just a second, that might take 30 minutes of time, 20 plus conversations. Well, if we do that once a week, we're halfway through the year forgetting what happened in the first conversation we had by the time we're seeing what happened in the 18th. So the New Gen University is the best possible crash course you can have to actually implementing processes. And one testament to that university is we've had many of our top 20 producers of all of Gradient. We're talking 20 million plus a year in index annuity sales, huge amounts gathered under assets that have come out just again in the last couple of years since we started reholding them. We took a little hiatus because of COVID, who have left with just absolute rave reviews saying, I'm really glad I came back out because I saw completely different things at that university than what I did the first time. And it's because we're covering processes. And when you come out, you're going to see things that you can implement right now. And those are going to be the things you focus on. Once you get those implemented, there's always things you can come back to add in your process to continue to fill in the gaps and make them better and better. If there's one consistent theme across all of our best producers when we get together in a room, whether it be a round table or a summit or a gala, and talk about what's happened with your business, all of them have focused on process over the years, and they can tell us or you, what year they added this new item that changed their business, and then they added the next thing that changed it, and the next thing, and it's just that progression that's moved their business from a spot where they're constantly hunting and barely having enough to eat to a point where the business almost takes care of itself, but it's because of having a great process. So
And then
let's talk a little bit about that process.
sure.
Go
And then
ahead.
that'll lead into some other trainings that we talk about with like succession planning and some other things that as we build and really grow on it, that there's what those are for a later date, but those are some things that we have to offer after the success is enormous. Um,
100%.
Real quick on the new Gen U, just kind of the format of it. We obviously will highlight an FSP, a successful FSP that's using the new Gen system, whether it's for seminars or you can use this system if you have a radio show. However, you get your leads, you just what I call you run them through the funnel, and as they come out the bottom of that funnel, my hope and goal is that they're an advocate for the FSP's business.
Absolutely. The funnel term, I hear it a lot in our industry, and I think it's overused to the point where sometimes it doesn't really have a meaning. Um, a real process does what you just said. It turns somebody who came in and maybe you can make a sale with, but it gives them such a good experience that they become an advocate at the end of that sales process. I see so many businesses where a good salesperson runs the business, and that's really how you get started in this industry. Whether you have a big business or not, you have to be good at sales to some degree to get it done. But they come to us and they're working very, very hard, and they have ups and downs. Even the best salespeople have to have the right environment. They're on their game or they're off their game. Once process starts to come into play, it just smooths out all of those ups and downs, makes it more consistent, and turns into getting more out of every one of those interactions, which I like to say interactions are expensive. Getting the person in front of you at first is what everybody wants in their career. Later on in your career, you start to realize that you being in front of them is what's costing you money, because if you're really, really good in this business, you have a chance to meet with a lot of people. So you want to get the most out of every one of those moments you spend with a person or on a person's financial plan, whatever it may be. And that's where process really, really matters.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, I want to jump right into new gen if you're okay with that and
Yeah,
the process. I'm going to go ahead and just show real quick, essentially a couple of slides here that will be pertinent to everybody, and then we'll go through the entire system in which you can go step by step. So, real
absolutely.
quick, let me drop that off there. All right, so it's a five step system.
And I'll cover this, Dustin, if I can. The way that New Gen was designed, or at least what we want people to see, is you can look at your business in simple steps that nearly anybody who's working with prospects in the financial services business are experiencing. Now, the steps vary from office to office. I've seen offices that drag a 5-step process out into 7 appointments. And that's totally fine if you want to do it. The majority of the offices we work with are doing the 5-step process in 3 to 5 appointments. But no matter how you run your business, it generally starts out with you making a first impression to somebody. You have to get in front of that prospect. And it can include any one of the methods that you've heard about, whether it be direct mail, whether it be filling a seminar or a workshop, or a classroom type environment at a university. It could be that you're buying leads. In fact, I never thought that I would see as many FSPs successfully purchasing leads as we see today. COVID kind of took off the search for good groups and good lead companies, and we have many FSPs that have found their favorite company, and it's working really well. But you pay to get in front of that prospect a lot of the times, or you get that referral. Then when you're in front of them, you start the fact and feeling finding process. You learn a bit about them. Then you have to develop a strategy to put in front of them. Then you have to present those solutions to them, which hopefully results in the close of a sale. And that's step 4. But after step 4, you actually have to have a relationship with a person if you want to continue to generate business. So we'll walk through these 5 steps here really quickly to kind of give you a preview of how we focus on each one.
So step 1, prospecting. That's to run any system in any business, let alone financial services, you got to have somebody that you're going to present your value add to.
Yeah, and many things have changed about step 1. I think it's probably the one that's changed the most since I started in this business. I remember many years ago, if you came to me and said, I want to be a big annuity producer, the answer was do a seminar, do another seminar, and then do another seminar. Now I see a much more broad set of prospecting methods that are used, not just by any producer who's getting started in the business, but by our best producers in the business. I see more come in from referrals than I've ever seen before, which is good. And we'll get circle back around on that as we talk about prospect process and why that matters so much. But I can say with confidence that you don't have to be a seminar producer today to not just start a business, but also grow one and continue to see success. But you do have to be willing to prospect. And when you do it, you need to have a very good process. Otherwise, the dollars you spend, especially if you're starting up, won't have the return on investment that you need to be able to keep investing in more prospecting.
Okay, so let's just say somebody does the traditional dinner seminar system. They send out their mailers, they get the 25 buying units to show up for dinner. We go through and we have the seminar. What are some of the steps that are going to involved in that part of the prospecting process?
Sure. And actually, because we're talking about New Gen University, I should highlight that we always have a producer out there to actually show their process. But the next one, that individual happens to be Jeff Foley, who has hosted or been our featured presenter at a lot of these New Gen universities in the past. And he actually walks through exactly what he does. In our New Gen system, we have all these items, but Jeff covers how he sends out initial communication to anybody that registered for a seminar. He actually does use direct mail, so he covers exactly what companies he uses, how much he roughly spends for each one of those direct mail pieces. But then what happens the minute somebody says or makes a reservation for your seminar? What's the communication after that? So the email campaigns that go out that he runs through our system that you get access to as part of the system, we train on that at the university. Then he covers what his staff actually does as a result of every one of those confirmations. In line with those emails, he covers the online tools that he encourages prospects to use, like the commerce system. Every one of those items we run through at the university. Now, for you out there, your process should look very similar to that. You should know exactly what the next step will be that moment you get a prospect on the line, whether you get a lead or a reservation for a seminar, whatever it is. You need to know exactly who in your office is taking action, if you're the only person, what your action is, and then what your next step will always be. It's important to have those next steps line up.
Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and jump to step 2. Now that we've actually got in front of the prospect and we've got the value add and they've set an appointment or they've set a meeting with the FSP, what do we do in step 2?
Yep. So fact and feeling finding is something that everybody does to some form or another. And I've seen, many years ago, fact and feeling finding included finding out whether there was an asset to move. So some would just stop at hearing, oh, there's an $80,000 variable annuity over here that I can move over. So that is fact and feeling finding, even if it's short-lived. But many producers now, many of you that are out there, do thorough fact and feeling finding for good reason. You're asking the client, the prospect, about what their wants are, about what they are in to see you for, what are their concerns, what are their wishes for retirement. It's now become both a combination of rapport building and relationship building, and also fact finding, which will help you actually put together a plan for the prospect. And this part of the process, again, is a chance to leave an impression on that person. And that's why having a good process that you can not only get the information you need, but you can also let that individual know what you'll do with the information is really important. We have been able to coach the improvement of processes to the point where most prospects are buying into the process and sharing much more information than they would have years and years ago when the processes weren't nearly as polished.
Awesome. And really, from what I tell a lot of our FSPs is, in that fact and feeling process, you want them to paint a picture of how they see retirement. So you can then not only work towards that goal in all of your planning processes, but as you can paint that picture, they can actually visually see within your plan what you're going to provide for them. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So step 3 is the strategy. Now, this is one of the ones where I think we have absolutely set ourselves apart from about any other financial institution out there on how we can help the FSP, and it's in the strategy process.
Yeah. earlier I said that, initially in this business, you start out worrying about the money you spend to get in front of prospects. And then later your time becomes so valuable. You're actually worried about the time you spend on prospects, because that's your real big investment. And strategy is definitely one of those areas where that comes into play, because if you really truly want to get something in front of somebody that's thorough, comprehensive, shows that you use what you took in your fact finding, it takes time. If someone brings in a shoebox full of statements, if you actually want to put that to use, you've got to break that all down for them. And half the time, they're not going to do it. They don't know what those statements mean. That's your value that you add. And so having our Case Central team here is a massive advantage for you, because you're able to just send all of your documents right in. And that team, led by a CFP, takes and breaks it all down for you, so you don't spend any time on that, consolidates it all into a report that we found the clients find high value in. They just absolutely love the fact that you have taken a complicated financial situation and shown it to them in just a couple of pages. But then they run what you would also do yourself. They look at the Social Security analysis, figure out how to maximize those dollars, look at the client's income needs and fill income gaps, look at the risk tolerance of the client based on what you learned in your first appointment through the process, and compare that to how their assets are stacked up. And they make it all visual. So all the reports that they create are reports that you can use and create yourself using our different tools that we've created, but they do it so that you don't have to spend the time on it. And we've tracked this. When we first started with Case Central, we monitored the average case size that we had of all producers before Case Central existed. Then we monitored the average case size of those producers that started using Case Central, both compared to others that didn't use it and compared to their businesses prior. And it was definitive. The average case size from someone who used Case Central was significantly higher than those who did not use it. And this is, I think Case Central's been in place for 9 years. It just continues to get better and better. This is back when our reports were very limited. Now the suite of reports and the value that's provided to the client through the program is just better and better. For those of you that have
go ahead.
For those of you that have multiple lines of business, Case Central couldn't be more important too. I mean, if you're doing not just an annuity sale, you're also looking at life insurance and AUM, then the amount of time that you would spend and the amount of additional appointments you would spend to create a full picture, you're cutting that at least in half using Case Central.
Sure. So to summarize, really just right where we're at this point in the process is we use step one was prospecting. We got in front of the individual. Step two, after they set an appointment to meet with the FSP, we went through the fact and feeling finding. Then we take those facts and all of the information that they gave us in that first appointment, and we put it into a strategy. And that's really where we're at. Step three is the strategy is trying to implement everything that they've got. Now I kind of jumped ahead a little bit. So step four is once we get the strategy and once we get our team of alphabet soup to put together all of the reports and the recommendations, we go into step four, which are the recommendations and implementation with the actual prospect.
Yep. And in this process here, this is where the salesman of you comes out. You have all the reports, you're building rapport again with the consumer. You're using the rapport you've already built to show them and have a discussion about, your life looks like this now. You had told me you want these things. Here's what it actually could look like. Is there any reason we wouldn't move forward? Knocking down your objections. And process is really important here, because one thing that Dustin and I have witnessed many times is, a perfect situation where you could help somebody gone bad because the communication is lost here. So having a good process put in place as you have those discussions makes it so that you're, again, less reliant on your on-the-fly sales skills and more of a honed conversation. You're using more of a honed conversation where you help people get to that end solution that's really beneficial to them. Now,
Yep.
Also in here, being efficient is really, really important, because here you're closing cases. So you're doing paperwork. Those of you that have offices with 2 or 3 people helping you know how important it is. I mean, obviously you're paying those people to make it so that their next steps are well ironed out. They know exactly what they're going to do. And you're setting them up to be as perfect. I shouldn't say perfect, but as flawless as possible, meaning less things can go wrong. So in here, you're going to throw things into your process, like use e-apps when you can. Take advantage of technology to make it so that as much of what you do sticks. The worst thing is doing all the work to get business closed and have a free look or something else take that back away from you.
Awesome. And then Once we implement it and they become a client of yours, the FSP, the work's not done. I mean, obviously you're providing financial services for hopefully years and years and hopefully decades into the future. So then we get into step 5, the ongoing relationship.
This is a step that gets overlooked a lot, especially early in the business. The main reason is you're going out and you're hunting. You're trying to find that next prospect all the time. So you close a piece of business and you're not looking at what may happen with that individual later on. Now, as your practice grows and grows and grows, it becomes really obvious. I mean, in 2020, when visits face to face closed down, most of our offices went and searched through their own books of business to survive. And they did it with great results. And the existing clients that you have are a great asset. But the ongoing relationship that you have determines whether or not you are actively cultivating that business on a regular basis and reaping those rewards, and also whether the business will even be there down the road. One of our best offices, our number one on the leaderboard for annuity sales for the last 2 years, his change in his business actually occurred when our chairman, Chuck Lucius, told him, at some point, you're going to have to start developing meaningful relationships with your prospects if you want to make this a business that you can continue to scale with the amount that you're working. And this is an office that was running red hot, as hard as they could all the time, putting every hour they had in every weekend. And you hit a point. At a certain point, you can't work anymore. And so he took that to heart and went out and focused specifically on ongoing relationships. And that was the catalyst that took his business from as much as they could possibly do with all the brand new appointments, brand new clients and prospects they were bringing in, to an entirely new level. At the New Gen University, we focus on that. Dustin, if you would show, got a slide here with some of the details. This is kind of what a process can look like. Now, every item that you see here listed under every step is an item that Gradient provides through our New Generation system. So all the things that are available to you. And you look at this and you can ask yourself, because I can tell you right now, there's more items that aren't shown here. This is just what would fit on one slide. You can ask yourself, how in the world would I implement all this into my business at once? The truth is, having a process is what makes it easy to do this. You add certain items along the way. Part of the university is to get you immersed in it all at once so you can actually imagine the picture of what the world looks like. You got to paint that picture before you can start building things into it and understand how easy it is to run. From my end, and actually Dustin has the same experience, what you find is having the clean process and not needing to rely again on the seat of your pants in a sales situation completely changes where your resources are spent too. You start to put this stuff in place and you'll actually find that having a staff person is so much more useful to you because you've created steps for them to follow. Their job is easier because the number one thing people need to know is exactly what you expected them and what to do to provide you value, but it makes your job easier. So most of our producers actually argue that their business is 10 times easier now than it was 5 years ago, and they're doing so much more for clients. And every one of these items in here leaves or it removes an opportunity for a negative impression, but leaves a more positive impression. The polish of having professionally created reports for somebody is an extraordinary thing. Anytime you can do the unexpected, do more than that person expected of you, you're turning the situation into a situation where once they get over here, once that sale is closed, they're more likely to look at somebody else and say, I had such an unbelievable experience with these guys. I do think that it's worth you checking them out. And I do have enough confidence in the experience you'll have to refer them over to Dustin Hawks or whoever it may be out there who's potentially going to work with them. That's where advocates are generated. Now, all this said, I got to throw a plug in. Our new customer to client sales system. Obviously, that's a component in the last step, the ongoing relationship over here. That is a sales system that you plug right into your new gen process, and it helps you, again, cultivate business out of your existing book and make sure you're also going to be working with the next generation. So you've got that aging client base where your average client may be in their upper 70s or so, and you wonder what may happen if they start to pass away or their retirement dollars are dwindling. You need to start talking to the next generation, their family members, the kids. That sales system, which again, you plug into a process once you have one, makes it really easy to do that.
Yep. And so on the ongoing relationship there on step 5, I would say that, everybody has, not everybody, you have 3 children. I have 2 children. We equally love them the same. But what you just spoke about on the customer to clients, and really what I find to be one of the most important parts of step 5 is that very bottom bullet, the generational vault, and how that affects not only the actual client of yours, or what I would consider to be an advocate, but their beneficiaries and loved ones as well. I mean, we could spend a podcast on step 1, a podcast on step 2, and each and every step there is. And we may jump into that here in the future. But really that step 5 is what takes the financial advisor from running a good practice to being absolutely extraordinary across the board for all of their clients.
Yep. So if I can summarize here, I mean, my advice is come out to NewGen. If you haven't been to one ever, it's a must. You're going to get so much more out of your relationship with Gradient, the coaching that Dustin and Chris are going to provide, by having seen it, and again, having that picture painted for you of what your business will look like once you implement these things. But also, if you haven't been out to one in the last couple of years, you need to come out again. I don't want to throw out names here, but we just had 2 producers to our last NewGen who have been with us for over 10 years. And both of them had already attended the university. Both of them were not expecting to get what they got out of their attendance at the university. Both came for different reasons, and we're raving about it. I mean, nothing like being in this business for 15 years, implementing what you thought is everything you could possibly implement, spending 2 days, and then knowing that you've got another tier, another rung that you can move up.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So I would I would fail our podcast here if for those that are watching on YouTube didn't notice that we have essentially the same sweater on, or the same shirt on, and it is so ironic that we both are wearing a gray quarter zip pullover sweater, because all of those years, that decades worth of partnership that we had, when we go to these trainings, or we go to these events that we have, usually there's a shirt or a polo or something that's a give at every one of these that everybody puts on. And I don't think that there's a team at Gradient that showed up working together that dressed the same unexpectedly as we did for 10 years.
Yeah, it is funny that it happened today. But obviously, you're working from home, so I had no idea what you're going to bring in here. But all the time, we looked like twins here in the office without intending to at all. So it is funny.
It would be awesome if, like, maybe they'd give 2 different options and you get one option and I get the other option, and then it would never happen. But
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, I cannot thank you enough for spending some of your precious time with us to go through the NewGen system, the upcoming NewGen University that we're going to host in Minneapolis, there in Arden Hills. To attend to that event, you can obviously log on to the Connects Me portal and go to the training and registration part of that. But you also can call into Chris or myself, and we can get you all squared away. And through our dynamic business blueprint, many of you that work with us already have a free ticket to come. And if you're not working with us and you do have some wants or needs in building your appointment process, and you want to look at NewGen, call in, find out how we can get you to this event for free. But most importantly, the other incentives that you get to use the system with us and to write business. So I want to close it here real quick with a quote, and we've been doing this, but experience takes a long time, but it is effective. Now, that is from Frederick Bastia, and I had to Google his name to learn how to pronounce that. But what that means is that, for NewGen, and how that equates is, we've been doing this for almost 17 years here at Gradient, and we have taken the culmination of everything that we do, whether it's the COMRA risk analysis, and it's the fact and feeling finder, and it's the generational vault, and it's Case Central and CFPs, and everything that we do. Take our long experience of building this, learning from FSPs, being in some of the top FSPs offices across the country, and putting that into the soup, and then essentially putting that out to the actual prospects and clients out there. There's not a better system out there. There's not a system that will make you more profitable than the NewGen retirement system offered by Gradient. So with that, Luke, I can't thank you enough. The time was awesome. It's good to see you again. Hopefully everybody enjoyed hearing your voice and seeing your face again from all of those years of working with you. And I know that they get to see you at some of the events and talk to you every once in a while.
That was my pleasure. And I look forward to seeing some new faces at the new gen as a result of this. So register for it. Did you give everybody your number in case they are watching this on YouTube?
Yep. So the number for Gradient is 800-407-4137. That's toll free. I'm going to get real crazy here. I'm going to give you my direct line. My direct line at Gradient is 785-861-1687. And that'll dial right to my desk and we'll get you all fixed up. Thanks again,
Awesome.
Luke.
My pleasure.